your day is going well. Today we're doing a live on YouTube. Now I'm flying by the seat of my pants on this one because I don't have a moderator. I just took a wild shot and said I'm going to go on YouTube. Now the last time I was on YouTube though, I had a problem with the comments. People were making comments, but they weren't showing up where I could see them. And I couldn't figure out how to deal with that. So I had to do the whole thing without any comments. And that kind of defeats the whole purpose of doing a fucking live. So hopefully things will get better here. They're just now sending out the notices to people that might show up and listen. For those of you showing up, well, we have one person here. Got to get a couple more. Anyway, hopefully the comments will show up this time and we won't have the problems that we had been having the last couple of times we've done it with YouTube. Debbie says, hi, Boomer. Thank you. Thank you for doing this so I know this shit's working. All right, we're getting some people in here, and that's the way we like to do it. I tell you, one of the reasons I like doing the lives is because I get a chance to interact with folks I don't normally get to interact with. You know, I'm doing these TikToks, and I'm just talking to a phone, and it's good to have people are on the other end and they can talk to them. Ronald says, hi, Boomer. Randy says, hi, Mike. Stephanie says, hey. Andrea Rossi says, hey, Boomer. Hi, everyone. Troy says, good looking out, Boomer. So it's good. We're getting a lot of people coming in, and that's the way we like to do it. We're kind of starting out the week this week. Scott says, thank you from South Carolina. Love South Carolina. We have a place down in Georgia. We go over to Hilton Head and some of the other places in South Carolina. Beautiful state. But whenever I talk about Donald Trump, I will frequently say that this guy is unserious, he's incompetent, and he's absolutely as blatantly corrupt as anybody can possibly be. Daz Real says, thank you. Thank you, Daz. But you know, we've got all this situation going on with the war with Hamas and Israel, the war with Ukraine and Russia. Donald Trump said he would end those, but they're still going on. And in fact, in the process, he's pissing off Benjamin Netanyahu, which is weird, and Vladimir Putin. He wants them to do what he wants them to do. And when you don't do that, Donald Trump gets mad. He gets perplexed. He either gets angry or he runs away. And it seems like what he's trying to do with Vlad is say, well, if you're not going to do it my way, well, then I'm just not going to play. But he's going a step further with Vladimir Putin. He's saying this guy's crazy. He's not doing the right things. He's making some bad choices. And then Donald Trump said, you know, I don't think he understands that things could have been a lot worse if not for me, meaning Donald Trump, which is telling us that he's actually confessing to trying to help Vladimir Putin and the Russians in this particular situation. So Vladimir Putin's doing what he's doing. Vladimir Putin's kind of taunting Donald Trump by saying, well, he's getting a little emotional. He needs to calm down a little bit. And like I said in my TikTok, when in my experience, telling my wife to calm down and she's getting too emotional, yeah, that doesn't play out too well. I doubt it's going to work with Vladimir Putin either. Houdiner says, hi, Mike, California resident, but in Florida this week. I can't understand how the state went red. Dems need to figure that out. Yeah, absolutely right, especially with as many people in that state that are on Social Security and Medicare. They're elderly people, and yeah, they may be boomers and they may be MAGA, but they're voting against themselves. Trump's peers in Putin, Netanyahu, Kim, and Xi are all sick of him. Yeah, well, I think they're all embarrassed by him doing some of the silly, ridiculous shit. Even they are thinking that's a step too far. Scott Waterman, the battle with Harvard is funny just because a stupid kid can't get in. Yeah, absolutely. I think it has to do with that. I think it has to do with he couldn't get into Harvard. I think it also has to do with Malia Obama getting in and his dumbass kid can't get in. Yeah, this is all very petty. This is what Donald Trump does. He's fucking petty as hell, and he's a child. Troy Mitchell, he's the biggest con artist in the world. That is true. Mike Hahn says, Mike from St. Peter, know the town well. Jay says, they get over it when he brings them a deal no one else can. Yeah, it's a payoff of some sort. As long as Donald Trump is making money, he's cool. Boogwat Oz, bro, I'm so worn out with all this is going on with his administration. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I think we're all kind of fatigued by what's going on, and it gets to be more and more and more ridiculous. Like I was talking about, you've got all these wars, the economy in free fall, the deportation, sending citizens out to remote fucking prisons. And what's Donald Trump doing today? Donald Trump pardoned a sheriff in the southeastern part of the country who was arrested and convicted of taking bribes. I mean, the shit was on video. It's not like there was some question about it. He did it. Donald Trump pardoned him. There was another guy who was, I don't know if he owned nursing homes or something like this, and what he was doing. Get this, this is what he was doing. He was collecting money from his employees for Social Security, but not paying into Social Security. Isn't that ironic? Donald Trump's looking for waste in Social Security, and this motherfucker's stealing Social Security money. And what does Donald Trump do? Well, he pardons them. He pardons them. And it may have something to do with the fact that they had a $1 million fundraiser dinner, and this guy's mom showed up, and shortly thereafter, he's pardoned. And then the best one of all was earlier today. The best one of all was earlier today when Donald Trump decided he was going to pardon the Chrisleys, you know, those clowns on reality TV, those clowns that committed bank fraud, like, I don't know, like himself. He pardoned them today, too. They were going to be in there for about 10 years. The only thing that you can possibly imagine that is going on here, because Donald Trump doesn't do something because he's a nice guy. Donald Trump's getting paid. Donald Trump's doing a play for pay plan on pardons. We know he did it in his first term with some rappers and such. We know that he was talking about offering a pardon for $2 million. Do you think he's making any money on these? I fucking guarantee you. Yeah, I'm worn out too, but we got to keep fighting. That's part of their strategy, to keep pounding and pounding and cause people to become so tired and so worn out. And they say, just fuck it, just do whatever you're going to do. That ain't me. I don't think that's you. Ronald LaChance says, thank you, Boomer, for doing this for our country. Well, I appreciate that, Ronald. And if our country benefits from it somehow, that's great. I don't know how big a part I would play in that. The real reason I do this is it's kind of cathartic for me. It gets it off my chest. But I'm not as worried about me as I'm worried about my kids and my grandkids. I don't know if I'll do any good or I'll help anything along the way, but at least when it's all said and done and I'm dead and gone, they can say, well, at least the crazy motherfucker tried. David Wells says he has to go along with the Republicans. Mike Hahn says, happy 65th to your wife. I hope you're feeling better. I am actually feeling better. I got a cold. I don't know if it's a cold or allergies. I've never had allergies before, but I'm 65 too now, so who knows? You get all kinds of shit when you get older. But we had a good time on her birthday. Like I said, we had breakfast with my son and my granddaughter and my daughter-in-law, who's about ready to give birth in the next week or so. Went to the park with the granddaughter. Then my wife and I went to a PWHL hockey game. That's Professional Women's Hockey League. Our Minnesota Frost was playing the Ottawa Charge, and they won the Walter Cup for the second year in a row. The only 2 years it's been running, Minnesota's won each time. So my wife was jacked about that. So was I. And then later we went to a bar and watched the Timberwolves fucking lose. It was a good day, though. Jen Robb says, it's clear he's a real criminal at this point. Yeah, there's no question. I mean, he's committing crimes all over the place. I mean, people talk about his immunity, but the fact of the matter is when this is all said and done and he's no longer the president, there are going to be some indictments. That's assuming he even survives that long, because if you look at him, you listen to him, he doesn't appear to be too healthy. He says he started a beef with Putin now, but we all know who his boss is. It's going to be interesting to see how Putin reacts. Putin is a malignant narcissist, but he's controlled and he's a lot smarter than Donald Trump. It's going to be interesting to see how far Donald Trump will go and how long Putin will be willing to put up with it. Debbie says, you're bombarded with so much crap every day, it wears you out. Yeah, it does. And I will tell you what you need to do is separate yourself from it as much as you can. You got to get the information so you know what's going on. But even me, I listen in short spurts to try to see what's going on. If something sounds interesting, I investigate it. But I got to tell you, it was very healthy for me to go to a park with my granddaughter and my wife and my son. It's just nice to let all that shit go, and you really have to do that. Vicky says he pardoned a reality TV couple as well. That's right, the Chrisleys. And I guarantee you, well, here's the thing about the Chrisleys. The Chrisleys defrauded people for like $14 million. They were supposed to make restitution for this. So not only do they get out of prison, they also don't have to pay back that $14 million. So those people that were owed this money and were expecting the restitution aren't going to get it, thanks to Donald motherfucking Trump. Spacer7567, Trump got former Republican David Jolly to register as a Democrat in Florida. He's running for governor of Florida. I think Floridians are sick of the DeSantis and his wife. The dominoes are falling. Yeah, I think we are going to see some changes in Florida. I mean, not only was DeSantis tied to Donald Trump, he failed miserably. But the state has really gone to shit. I mean, they can't find workers. Nobody can afford insurance. The housing market's being affected. And it's all due to a shitty governor. So he can't run again, but we'll see what comes after him. It would be nice to see Florida try to regain some normality because it's a beautiful state. A lot of people like going down there for vacations and such, but I can't bring myself to do it. I just don't want to spend money in a state that does the things they do. What happened to deporting, or was that all BS? Well, no, they're still trying to deport people. The funny thing about it is they're deporting about as many people as Biden did and less than Obama did, but they want to make it like they're tough. See, this is the problem with them. They have great ideas, but they're incompetent motherfuckers, so they can't really do anything. They can't do it properly. Tenzin says, so nice and rare to see Caucasian dude not supporting the dictator Trump. Yeah, I'm kind of the boomer unicorn. But I will tell you this: a lot of people suggest that all boomers support Donald Trump, and that is not true. There's a lot of them. There's people I know that were friends at one time that support him. But if you check me out on TikTok, I have about 460,000 followers, and most of them are Gen X or boomers. There's a lot of boomers that think like me. I just happen to be loud about it. So don't get too sold on the fact that all boomers are bad. They're not. Not all Gen X are bad, and not all millennials are lazy either. You know, you can't generalize like that. Jay says, they want the best deal possible. They will deal with Trump. You're getting lost in the noise. You're playing checkers. Oh, Jay's a Trump humper. Well, Jay, what I do with Trump humpers, I remove you. I was wondering when we start to get some. I usually do a live on Substack because I don't have to deal with Trump humpers at that point. But when some guy comes to me and can't complete a sentence grammatically correct and says, you're just playing checkers, Donald Trump's playing chess, fuck you. You don't know what you're talking about. You're too stupid to even take time to talk to, because first of all, I know you can't comprehend truth. You can't accept facts. So I'm not going to waste my time talking to a dumbass. All right. Tenzin, he a smart guy. Yeah, I bet he is. How about you focus on figuring yourself as you try to go to the bathroom? Number one killer. Oh, I bet you're a tough guy. I bet you're an amazing tough guy. Why don't I focus on going to the bathroom? Why don't you focus on learning the King's English and write a complete sentence, stupid fuck? Carpe diem, Boomer is a hero for the ages. He has kept his word and his constant voice of reason and information. Thank you, sir. I'm not a hero. I'm just a loud motherfucker. I'm not a hero in any sense of the word. I'm just saying a lot of things that people want to say. And because I don't have a boss and because I don't have anybody holding anything over my head, I have the opportunity to say it. And fortunately, because of my background, I have the aptitude to say it. So I'm no hero. I'm just a loud guy. Number one killer, who I think I blocked already. America is benefiting from Trump. Maybe you do some research, bud. Number one killer. Ah, I should have tried to talk to this guy because he's stupid. He's stupid for one thing. Why don't I do some research? Well, I did some research. Let's take a look at the research. Donald Trump is shipping U.S. citizens to horrible prisons in El Salvador. The stock market is down 4,000 points since Donald Trump took office. What else is going on? Prices are going up. The GDP is going down. I did some researches, motherfucker. Jay, we're free counselors too. It still means you need therapy for this. Defund education. Tenzin. Who is this fucking clown? Eggs are cheaper than ever. Yeah, so what? So what? I just heard today at Southwest Airlines, prices are going up 40%. I've seen car prices go up. I've seen gas prices go up. Nothing's going down, number one killer. Nothing's going down. You can try to say that. You can act as if that's the case, but it's not. It's just not happening. Let's see. And Michelle Duff says, hi, Boomer. Hey, Michelle. Judges are starting to stand up against them. Well, they're going to have to. I mean, the problem federal judges have with Donald Trump is this. They have the federal marshals that are to protect and to serve for the judges. The only problem with that is the federal marshals work for the DOJ, which is run by Pam Bondi, who is a puppet to Donald Trump. So I don't know that they can use the federal marshals to do anything because Bondi and Trump will just stop them from doing it. The better option to do this is finding in contempt of court and doing it civilly, excuse me, so that they either are fined or they are sanctioned or they are disbarred, because that's something Donald Trump can't pardon. Let's see. Hodiner says, thanks for showing up every day, even when you're not feeling well. These are tough times for our country where we can't count on principles to see us through. Well, there's some truth to that. Hold on a second. You're absolutely right about that. You know, every day when you get up and you see people doing things, you hope against hope that people will do the right thing. And then when they don't do the right thing, you would hope there's some accountability for it. But in this day and age, that's not the case. That is frustrating. It does feel like there's nothing we can do. And I will tell you this, ultimately, these kinds of things crash for these kind of people. It can't continue on forever and ever. It will crash. I am disappointed by how long it's taking, but we're seeing some degradation of the MAGA party. They're losing a lot. Check Trump defunding universities. Yep. The whole Harvard thing is a joke. I don't know why he's messing with Harvard. Harvard will end up kicking his ass. Think of all the most powerful, wealthy, positioned people in this country today. Most of them went to Harvard, and most of them aren't going to be very happy about their alma mater being fucked with Donald Trump, especially somebody a dumbass like Donald Trump. Let's see here. I research every word before I type it. Good for you. Well, and you know, the thing about it is you don't have to research. I mean, it's not like you have to do a deep dive on everything. It's not hard to find the truth if you're looking in the proper places. You're going to find the truth, but you got to be willing to see it, be motivated to look for it, and then accept it when you see it. See, that's the problem with Trumplefucks. I can sit and tell them the truth, show them the facts, show them what it is, and they will refuse to accept it. So there's really no point in dealing with these people. There's no point in arguing with them because they can't grasp it. They can't comprehend it. Vicky says, let's hope the younger generation is brighter. That's how it's supposed to work if we're doing our job. You're absolutely right. And we can only hope that that's the case. More importantly, we hope that the younger people are interested enough to get involved. I mean, I'll be honest with you, we boomers, Gen Xers, for decades, we weren't involved. We were apathetic as motherfuckers for a long time. And that's why we're in this position now. It isn't until Donald Trump that people woke up and say, wait, what the fuck? And start pushing back. We have to make sure these young people are informed, know where to get the proper information, the truth, and be activated enough to do something about it. We're at kind of a tipping point with our government. I think what we're going to be seeing is a dramatic change in our government. The Republican Party is cooked. It's done. The Republican Party bears no resemblance to what it once was. It's not conservative. It's not Republican. I don't know how it looks after Donald Trump is gone. But it's going to be different. But the Democrats are also having problems too. These Democrats are going to have to make some dramatic changes if they hope to improve going into 2026 and 2028. We're in a bad way with our government. We've got a lot of problems with the Republicans, certainly, but even the Democrats have a lot of problems too. Sally says, I know Florida sucks. I live here and want to get out. And that's sad because, as I said, Florida is a beautiful state. There's a lot of wonderful places in Florida. Vicky says, my 9-year-old grandson is much brighter than Donnie. My 5-year-old granddaughter is brighter than Donnie. Donnie, what you have to understand about Donnie, he's not very bright, but at least he's mentally ill. There's something mentally off with him. I was watching this guy that used to be on mainstream media, Cizilla, I think his name is. He's all right. But he was trying to make the argument that some people are suggesting Donald Trump is diminished or in cognitive decline. And he said, no, he's not. I go, I got to fucking hear this. And he goes back in decades when Donald Trump's said ridiculous shit. So his premise is, since he was saying ridiculous shit 20, 40 years ago, and he's still saying ridiculous shit, he's not in decline. He is in decline. You can see in the way he talks, the cadence in the way he talks, the things he screws up, and the frequency he screws up. He's always been saying crazy things because over and above the cognitive decline, he is and always has been mentally ill, or at least mentally deficient. He's not a smart man. He's got malignant narcissist. He's a malignant narcissist, probably a sociopath, and more than likely a psychopath, not to mention a pathological liar. That's a lot of shit to have going on in your head. So whether you want to call it decline or not, he's a piece of shit. He's a liar. He's a danger to this country. Andrea Rossi says, I'm 71, a boomer, and I am a solid Democrat. Thank you, Andrea. And that is that is true. Gorlami TV, rational boomers, probably impotent. I got a joke about that. I won't do it. But that's all you got? Really? That's all you got? What a loser. Diamond Jimmy says, I love this guy. Thank you. Love you guys too. Trumps can't spell chess. I would say that's probably true. I saw Vietnam cave to Trump and agreed to a realty agreement for the new golf course. I'm not sure of the implications due to the issues with China and South China Sea and trade. Donald Trump says a lot of things. I mean, see, that's the thing. When he says, I cut a deal with X country, do you believe him? He said he cut a deal with UK. Didn't cut a deal. There was no deal on the table. They were working on it. When he said he cut a deal with China, didn't cut a deal. It was a pause. China's not going to do shit for Donald Trump because they can't trust him. Whatever he says, he's going to change in a day or two anyway, so nobody can negotiate with him. If he cut a deal with Vietnam, I'll be surprised. You know what the deal that really fucked Donald Trump up with? Remember when he was talking about taking over Greenland? And he hasn't talked about it lately. You know why? Well, first of all, when he fucked with China, China says, you know all those rare earth minerals that you need to make computers and batteries and all that shit? We're not selling them to you anymore. And China sells about 90% of those rare earth minerals. So then he found out Greenland had rare earth minerals. So then he's talking about, well, we're going to take over Greenland. Greenland sold its rare earth mineral rights to the EU. So now Donald Trump has no reason to grab it because what he wanted has already been sold off to EU. They fucked him over good. Hodiner says, do you think that the spending bill will get through Congress? A few changes, then all good. If it passes, our economy will take a nosedive. I don't. It's a weird situation because there are people who are against it. Republicans. There's two camps, though. Some of those are the ones that have enough common sense to know it'll pretty much destroy their chances for 2026. And there are some other people that think they should cut even deeper. This is the weird thing. Donald Trump says we're not cutting Medicaid. But then, of course, the bill says specifically that they're cutting Medicaid. Somebody from the White House came out the other day and said, yeah, they're cutting Medicaid. But Donald Trump keeps saying we're not cutting Medicaid. Does he not know? Is he lying? Is he gaslighting? Or is he just stupid? Who the fuck knows? The way it stands right now, it'll never pass. It will never pass as it stands right now. If they will ever pass it, it'll be interesting to see what it looks like. I know if it doesn't pass, there's going to be a lot of oligarchs pissed off because they were all in on Donald Trump, and then Donald Trump does this shit with the tariffs. They get kicked in the ass in the stock market, but they're thinking to themselves, at least we'll get the tax cut. And if they don't get the tax cut, they're going to be some pissed off compadres. So will it pass? It'll take a long time, I think, to pass. Will something pass? And I'll tell you something else that I think is a little fucked up. I think there are some Democrats that hope it does pass. They hope it does pass because they know it'll pretty much implode the Republican Party and make things easy for 2026. Now, I understand that mentality. I get it. But if for that to happen, a lot of people are going to have to suffer. And if the Democrats don't care about people suffering, therein lies their big problem with trying to get reelected. I think there's been enough damage right now that the Republicans are going to have a hell of a time in 2026. I mean, you can't have tens of thousands of people kicked out of jobs, the economy going to shit, the farmers losing the farm. How do you get reelected with that? If the Republicans get reelected in 2026 in the House, I think we all need to pack our little rucksacks and get the fuck out of the country and go someplace that's more hospitable. DJT is playing Hungry Hungry Hippo with McDonald's fries. Yeah, pretty much. Checked on his previous term, too. Yeah, absolutely. Any advice for coping with panic due to all this with Trump? Yeah, I got some advice for you. I don't, a lot of people will come out on TikTok or on YouTube and they'll say, I can't take this anymore. I'm so upset. And I'll be honest with you, I don't get emotional about any of this. I get angry about some things and I'll call people out, but I don't worry day to day. And here's why. A couple of examples. First of all, we've gone through troubled times in this country before. The 1960s were different, but quite turbulent and quite dangerous. With Vietnam War, the protests, civil rights, women's rights, all the assassinations. It was crazy in the 60s. But guess what? Here we are in 2025. We made it through there. And things got better in the 70s and 80s. And then after Ronald Reagan, it got shitty. It started to get shittier again. But the other thing I always tell my kids is this. I'm 65 years old, and I've gone through every trial, tribulation, and tragedy that anybody could go through, just like all of you. There were days when I didn't know if I'd make it to the next day. I didn't know how I could survive. But again, here I sit at 65 years old. I made it through. We will make it through. We always make it through. Things will get brighter down the road because that's always what happens. If you know that's what's going to happen, then you don't have to worry as much. The people want to think about the worst possible outcome. And I don't believe we'll get the worst possible outcome. I think the one thing that bothers people more than anything is uncertainty. I think people are afraid of uncertainty. You got to kind of be able to embrace it and just assume it's all going to get better eventually. And everything that's going on now, you can only do so much. All I can do is come here on TikTok and YouTube and everywhere else and say my piece. That's all I can do. So as long as I'm doing all I can do, I don't need to worry. I mean, I worry about what the future is for my kids and grandkids, but we got to put the fight in now to make sure that things get better quicker. They're going to get better ultimately. I'm not here to make it better. I'm here hoping to make it better quicker because it will get better. Uh, Ronald LaChance says ports are empty. Yeah, I haven't got much in the way of reports from the ports. I heard that ships are started again, but they're about 30-40% less product coming in than what we once had, and that will have a significant effect. Not to mention, there's still a 30% tariff on all Chinese stuff, so that's something to consider too. What he's done with China, a lot of people think we're safe now because he put a pause on it. We are not. It's still going to be bad. Prices are going to go up. There's going to be shortage of things. And I thought it might be here by now, but it's going to be coming shortly because it takes a while for everything to catch up. And it's going to be bad. And Donald Trump is going to have to address that. And it's going to be interesting to see how he tries to blame that on fucking Biden as he's suffering with prostate cancer. Vicky says a worker was picked up by ICE tonight in my small town, getting close to home. You know, we've talked about those ICE people, and I'm curious as to how many of those ICE people are actually employed by the Immigration Service. There's a lot of people out there claiming to be ICE agents that have black clothes, no badges, no patches, faces are covered, and they're just swooping people up. I'm going to tell you something about this. You're going to start to see pushback on this. We're already seeing it in some communities where somebody gets picked up on the street and the neighborhood goes, fuck no, and start pushing back. I'm afraid it's going to turn into violence eventually, and some of those ICE agents might be in trouble because there's a lot of people that are going to push back, and they're going to get tired of this, or they're going to grab the wrong person, and people are going to get angry. I mean, you go into a red state and you do something like this and you've got an open carry law there, that's a recipe for fucking disaster. And it's going to be a disaster for the ICE agents and the Republicans ultimately. Pat says, Trumpty Dumpty says everything is going town, so number one instantly believes it's true. Yeah, for whatever reason, Trump LaFlux believe whatever he says, even though they know better. There's not much we can do about those people. Those people are in a cult. They're going to be there until Donald Trump goes off the cliff, and they will go with him. Benny Loco is here. Thank you for joining us, Benny. Benny is a frequent contributor on the podcast and all this, and she's also a moderator here too. And I will tell you about this, Trump LaFlux. If you're out there and Benny Loco's out there, you're in trouble because she is relentless when it comes to getting rid of you motherfuckers. Vicky says, my eggs were over $5. Not sure where everyone else is getting their eggs unless they're laying them. Yeah, it's funny. Before the election, eggs are too high. Vote for Donald Trump. Then after the election, the eggs are no big deal. And now they may have gone down 50 cents or whatever, and they're yelling and crowing about how the eggs are down. They're not down. I tell you, when I was buying eggs in any amounts, I was paying maybe $2 or $3 a dozen. They're at least $5 or $6 now. I don't know where the fuck they get the idea that it's going down or that it even fucking matters at this point. Evening, Mike. Damn, you're still clogged up. Yeah, it's getting better though, Benny. I'm not as clogged as I once was. I'm sleeping a little bit better, and I don't honestly know if it's a cold or allergies. I've never really gotten allergies before in my life, but it could be. Shit changes when you turn 65. Another factor may have been that my granddaughter had a cold, and she insists on a kiss, and there's a lot of saliva and snot, and I may have got it from her. And if that's the case, cool. I'll take as many colds from her as I can get. Gas is $3.09 a gallon in Kentucky. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a drop. You can't buy gas at any price if you're lease your investments in retirement. Yeah. Well, that's the interesting thing. I'm wondering how many people out there with 401ks have been looking at them. Most people I talk to, they don't even want to look at them because they're afraid of what it might be. And the thing about it is, if you're a younger person and you have a 401k, you will have time to recoup it. But if you're an older person and you have investments and you're counting on those investments to live on, that's where the problem comes into play. And people will be old enough where they won't get a chance to recoup it. They aren't going to live long enough. This is going to have some dire effects on a lot of people. Trump's little anchor baby girl rejected by Harvard. That's his beef. Yeah. Some people say that's crazy. That's ridiculous. That's petty. Well, that's fucking Donald Trump. So what if you paid $2.79 or $3.09 for gas if you lost your 40K in your 401k? Exactly. A guy that's on with me a lot and is a moderator too, TJ. He's off having fun in Vegas right now with his wife, but he told me when the big drops happened, he lost 40K in his 401k. That's absurd. That's crazy. And the thing about it is, he lost that money for no good reason at all. It was just a dumbass move by Donald Trump. Diener says, there is good news imminent. When is your grandson expected? Soon, right? Yeah. Actually, could be any day now, really. I think the due date was May 30th, and we're at the 27th. So we're pretty excited about that. We love our granddaughter. The thing I love about my granddaughter is she's kind of in your face and pretty bold. She looks like my wife and acts like me. I don't know if that's a good combination, but she is entertaining. There's no question about it. Now we're anxious to see what our grandson is going to be like. He's going to have a hell of a big sister and grandparents that will give him pretty much anything he fucking wants. Scott Waterman says, my wife and I are on Social Security and the prices of groceries is killing us. Yeah, I can understand that. See, that's the thing. They say we aren't going to cut Social Security, but when you raise prices and your Social Security can't cover as much, in essence, you've cut Social Security. Tricia, people on here that want to effing king or fucking get a Russia, you're the wrong country. Carpe diem, the Republican Party died with John McCain. May he rest in peace. You know what? In retrospect, you're absolutely right. The last real Republican was John McCain. And I had a lot of respect for John McCain. I think he was kind of losing it toward the end, but then when we find out he had a brain tumor, I guess it makes sense. Randy Buckingham says gas is over $3 and eggs are $6 here in Bright Red, Utah. Yeah, nothing is going down. Gagnon FC says you speak the truth. Reforms needed at political party level. Maybe a third party is the way to go. I would love to see a third party, but the two parties, Republicans and Democrats, have pretty much dominated and they control everything. It would have to be some kind of turnout by we the people to get behind a third party or some person to give them that power. There's so much money and control by the Democrats and Republicans, it's always hard for a third party to even make a showing. But there definitely has to be some changes. I think we don't need a third party as much as we need the Democratic Party to grow into the times. We're seeing the young people trying to push out the old people, and I think that's the right thing to do. We've got a lot of old people in the Democratic Party that just want to go along to get along. And we're getting tired of that shit. So maybe not a third party, but maybe a dramatic change to the Democratic Party. That said, I wouldn't be opposed to a third party if it was viable, if it could be done. We've never seen it done to this point, so it's going to have to be pretty impressive if they do it. Vicky says he's the cruelest politician in history. He is. He's the dumbest politician in history. He's the most unpatriotic politician in history, and he's fucking evil. There's no question about it. Andrea Rossi says he's very much in decline. Yeah, there's no question this Chris Cizilla that's saying he's not in decline. See, this is what we've got some people coming from mainstream media, either getting kicked out, fired, or whatever, and they come to YouTube or TikTok, and they want to do their own thing. And I think that's a smart thing. But they got to get rid of the mainstream media mentality that I got to ride the fence. I got to make everybody happy. I got to make the right not hate me and the left not hate me, so I'm going to be kind of in the middle. You know what? There should be a time in this world when you just speak the truth, what you believe. And if you can't do that, then you're a waste of our fucking time. So Chris Shazilla, if you're coming out here chasing views and chasing followers, you're doing it the wrong way. That's the one thing I did, and I'm not saying I'm the one everybody should follow. But when I came on TikTok and YouTube, I said, I don't know how I'm going to get followers. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to say what I say, the way I say it, mean what I say, and see what happens. And be happy with whatever I get. And instead of trying to be this media giant, once you get on YouTube or TikTok, you're doing it the wrong way. I mean, somebody like Aaron Parnas is a good example. Whether you like him or not, he does what he does all day, every day. He does a good job. He's accurate, and people have come to follow him. He's not doing anything fancy, no edits, nothing like that. He's just doing what he does, and for that, I can respect him. Vicky says, anyone who's arguing with context that deals with empathy is on the wrong side. I agree. There is a serious lack of empathy out there. And it's funny how some of the Trumplafucks are now looking for empathy. The same people that said, fuck your feelings. Well, you know, we've talked about this before, how some people say, well, when they finally realize that they fucked up, we're going to have to welcome them in and hug them. And I disagree. And it's not because I'm trying to be vengeful or I don't appreciate somebody who's made a mistake. Here's my problem. They knew exactly what he was going to do. They didn't get hurt and upset and change their ways until they realized that meant them too. They're more than happy to hurt a lot of people long as it's not them. But once it's them, we're supposed to feel sorry for them. These people voted for Donald Trump in 2016, okay? They voted for him in 2020 after all the shit he did in those 4 years. But the people who still voted for him in 2024 after he'd been convicted of 34 felonies, been adjudicated as a sexual predator and stealing classified documents, if you still voted for him then, guess what? I can't fucking trust you. You may be sorry now. You maybe want to make the right choice now, but 2 weeks down the road, 2 months, 2 years down the road, you're going to make the wrong choice again. And once again, you're going to fuck us over. And if you think I'm going to embrace you and bring you into the fold because I feel sorry for you, I don't. Frankly, I hope you suffer. I hope anybody who voted for Donald Trump suffers mightily. And it's not because I'm trying to be vindictive, but it would be just desserts, and here's why. You might be able to be afforded some sympathy because you're hurt by whatever Donald Trump is doing. Okay, you get a little sympathy for that. But because of what you did, there are innocent people who didn't vote for this that are getting hurt. So to me, not only are you a sorry, pitiful sight because you made the wrong choice for yourself, but you're also a fucking villain because you've hurt all these other people. Ooj Cat Productions says, hey, good to see you again, Boomer. Good to see you too. Remix 40. What are you talking about? Oh, nothing much. Nothing much, Remix. What's on your mind? What about the purchase of property in U.S. rich in lithium being given or sold to Musk and Bezos? Yeah. I mean, we're in a situation where it's a massive sell-off. You know, Donald Trump wants to sell national parks to the wealthy so they can log it or mine it or whatever the fuck they want to do. By the way, since we're talking about Musk, remember when Musk was thought to be the smartest man in the world, the richest man in the world? He knows everything. Everybody loves Musk. You know, his SpaceX, the previous 2 space shots that he put up, remember what happened to both of them? Back to back, they blew up. Fucking failed. He sent up another rocket just yesterday or today, and it was the biggest rocket ever. It went up all right, but when it came down, it broke apart and disintegrated. The smartest man in the world has failed 3 times trying to send something up with SpaceX. I don't think he's that fucking smart. Spacer says, I found that a problem we have is the cynicism in our society, where they view the side of common sense to be just as or more divisive than MAGA. So I agree with you about the complacency with some. Yeah, that's true. It's absolutely amazing to me when I sit with a Trump-levuck and they want to argue with me about something that I know is absolutely true, and I've seen the evidence that it's true. They don't want to believe it. They won't believe it. I don't know if it's they're too stupid to grasp it or if they just aren't willing to admit they're wrong. I think it may be a little bit of both. Regarding him cutting Medicaid, he doesn't even read the bills he signs. He gets the Cliff's Notes read to him. Not a serious leader. Yeah, in fact, if he's sitting there signing these executive orders, many times the mics have caught him saying, so what am I signing here? Oh, that's good to know. Our president is signing what's ever put in front of him. He's using his office to benefit his family. Nobody ever in history has so blatantly grifted this country than Donald Trump. He's selling pardons. He's selling influence. He's probably selling classified documents. And he's not even shy about it. He's doing it in front of everybody. Now, we, the people, and Democrats can see it and how blatant it is. The Republicans can see it too, but they refuse to do anything about this. All the problems you see in this country, you can blame Donald Trump, but you also need to blame the Republicans. They allowed him to do this shit. They allowed him to continue to do this shit. So when it's all said and done, they need to be held accountable too. I've never seen such a lack of reaction to such massively destructive governance in my life. Sean, you're absolutely right. And I think this is one of the things that's been most frustrating about the Democrats, seemingly not doing much. They're now starting to talk. They're starting to fight back a little bit. But as I was saying before, I was trying to wonder what their strategy is if they aren't doing anything. And I'm convinced, I think I know what their strategy is. When they lost the November 5th election, they were so surprised and they were so disgusted. They kind of said, all right, fuck it. That's what you want. Go ahead, have it. And they're willing to stand back and watch the rubble crumble and the economic calamity, let it happen so it destroys the Republican Party. But in the process, a lot of normal people, decent people get hurt. But that's the attitude I'm getting from the Democrats, and that shouldn't be acceptable either. Regardless of which side you're on, if you're a representative or a senator, you're here to work for this country and for all of us. And if you're just going to stand back and watch the world go to shit, you need to fucking leave too. Is our job to have these discussions, then write our representatives? We need them to hear us. I think it's always good to write the representatives, call the representatives. I think the protests are good. I think that's all we can do right now is to try to control the narrative. Whether it's calling representatives, I think that's certainly part of it. But think about what happened the last 4 years leading up to the election. Who was the loudest? Who never stopped talking? Who kept shoving things down everybody's throat? That was the Republicans. So we should take note of that. And let's do that in reverse. We control the narrative. We talk loud. We talk over them. We bully them. Because when you bully a bully, you always win because bullies are cowardice motherfuckers. Esker outcome. I'm worried about losing my Medicare and Medicaid insurances. I don't think this bill is going to pass, certainly in its current form. I wouldn't worry about that too much. I'm on Medicare now, too. I'm on Social Security and Medicare. And am I concerned about all that's going on? I am. But I'm not worried about losing it because that would be the red line. I mean, there are some other people that have been on the podcast who've said that's when the pitchforks and the torches come out. And they're absolutely right. When that happens, it's going to affect red states. It's going to affect blue states. People are going to be pissed, and we're going to see a lot of outrage and possibly some violence. I think everybody understands that that is the red line. Again, like I told you before, it does no good to worry about nothing you can control. You have to assume the best and keep pushing forward. I'm on Medicare. I'm on Social Security. I'm not worried about it as yet. Not to say it couldn't happen, but I got a feeling if it did happen, it wouldn't last very long because this country would fucking implode. You know, and the other thing about Medicare and Medicaid is, well, let's talk about Social Security. If you cut everybody off of Social Security, that would be devastating for the people that get Social Security, certainly, but it would also crash the fucking economy. Nobody would be able to buy homes, rent apartments, buy cars, buy groceries. By cutting Social Security out, it would devastate this country economically. Vicky says, yep, afraid of uncertainty, and I worry about that our kids and grandkids will have to do the recovery from this. You know, I think once this Donald Trump experiment, this disaster, I think we'll be able to get it on track pretty quickly. Whether we'll be able to recover completely, I don't know. But we get it on track. We point it in the right direction. And then when the kids do take over, they can continue down that track. I'm not one that says the sky's falling and it's going to be horrible and ultimate disaster. It's going to get better, and there'll be ways to do it. The first thing first, though, we got to put out the dumpster fire. And that's burning like a motherfucker right now. We've got to do something with Donald Trump and the Republicans, get them out of power, get Donald Trump out of office, and then we can worry about trying to get things back to normal, or at least headed that way. Andrea says, in the turbulent 60s, there was not the equivalent of Project 2025 or the absolute cruelty coming from the Republican Party. No, there was a lot of corruption with the Republican Party and the Democratic Party for that matter. And Project 2025, as you're talking about it, no, there wasn't anything like that. But let's remember, Andrea, in the 1960s, we kind of had Project 2025. We had racism, which was just accepted. They were second-class citizen. Andrea, if you were of age in the 60s, you couldn't have gotten a credit card or a car loan or a home loan either. There were some similarities to 2025, Project 2025, to what was going on just naturally in the 60s. 60s was not a good era for anybody but old white men. And we were going through that too. We didn't see that as a problem because that's what we'd always had. Racism was just accepted. Women were second-class citizens. That was a given in the 60s. Not that it was right, but that was a given. Now we have people that see it properly or differently, and that's why it seems worse. But we had that kind of stuff in the 60s too. Ron LaChance says, truckers are losing jobs. I can imagine. And the interesting thing is most of those truckers voted for Donald Trump. You got to wonder how they're feeling right about now. Michelle says, to deal with feelings of panic, do small things that are positive. Definitely call your representatives. Make a sign that says hands off VA benefits. This is safe pretty much everywhere. And, you know, even coming here to get this off your chest, to ask questions, to make comments. I got to tell you, that may be one of the reasons why I don't get emotional. I'm not an emotional type. I don't get freaked out about stuff. But I can come out here and say exactly what I think, the way I think it, and that does help get that off my chest. And when you come here and you ask your questions, hopefully that'll do the same. Sean says, I have no faith in them, Vicky. They need to be way more passionate, visible, and vocal than they are. Yeah, well, that's true, Sean. And they're young, and they're going to have to figure that out, and they're going to have to learn that. Here's the deal. In 2028, the majority of the voters are going to be millennials and Gen Zs. They're going to get the chance to determine their destiny. And here's the thing. We can only do what we can do as the older people. We can try to mold them. We can try to point them in the right direction. But if they make the decision, a bad decision going forward, There's not much we can do about it. Hopefully they're smarter than that. Hopefully they'll listen to the advice. But if they don't do it, they're going to have to deal with what they wrought like we did. That's just the way it works. Michelle says, thanks again, Boomer. Time to get to work. Well, you have a good day at work, Michelle. I appreciate you stopping in. Ronald LaChance, I live in a red state. We all carry. Good luck grabbing me from behind. I got 45 reasons not to do that. Yeah, that's my point. You get a guy or a gal in a black suit and a covered face saying you're coming with me. Eventually, they're going to come up against somebody who says, fuck no, and has the means to stop them. It's going to happen. I mean, it's crazy to think that you can walk up and do that to anybody. And now that we know that it's happening, I guarantee you people are becoming prepared. And it will be interesting to see when something like that goes down, because then we'll have to find out if these people really do work for the government or they're just vigilantes or Proud Boys or whatever the fuck they are. Because if that's what they're doing, if a Proud Boy is helping out ICE and they're swooping people up off the street, that's not deportation. That's fucking kidnapping. That's jail time. All right, continuing on. Kids are great germ spreaders. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the little petri dishes. I had young kids myself, and getting a cold was pretty regular. And back in the day, I was working in radio. That wasn't very conducive to doing my job with constantly getting colds, but it's a price we pay for having these little goofballs around. Vicky says, my grandson was sick. I got it from him. We're both sick for 2 weeks. Been there. Sean says, AOC, for example, she went to the Met Gala, $75,000 for a ticket. How can you be a champion of people with that kind of disposable income? You make a good point. I mean, I don't know much about AOC. I don't think she's wealthy. I don't know if she paid the $75,000 or they just invited her. I don't know. But you're right. It's hard to buy into somebody when they're able to have expensive cars, expensive outfits, and we got people that are trying to scrape money up to buy macaroni and cheese to feed their kids. It's a little hard to take them. And that's why I say I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I'm for what I support is truth over lies, justice over injustice, and decency over indecency. You could be anything, and if that's what you believe, then I support you. If you're a Democrat and don't believe in those things, fuck you. I don't like you either. Let's see here. Do you think they will she's asking about Kamala. I think you're asking me, do I think she'll be the candidate? I don't, to be perfectly honest with you. And it's not that I don't think she'd be a great candidate. Frankly, I thought Kamala would be a great president, and I'm so disappointed that she's not. But one of the things I've talked about a lot is one of the things we learned on November 5th was this country is more racist and more sexist than we imagined. 49% of the people voted for the worst presidential candidate in history, a convicted felon, a convicted sexual predator. They voted for him after knowing all they knew about him instead of a black woman. Now, was it because she was black or was it because she was a woman? I tend to think it's more that because she's a woman. And but throw in the black on top of it, and it didn't help her much. In 2028, we've got to do everything we fucking can to win. So if we have to find a younger white guy to do it just to get on track again, and then we can bring in the more diversity in the presidential or the White House, whatever. We've got to get the Republicans out of the way, whatever it takes. I'd love to see Kamala run again and win. I just don't know if that's going to get it for us. Carpe Diem says, lost 50K. We all lost money because Trump isn't playing chess. He's playing in the corner by himself. The king has no clothes. Couldn't agree more. This might be one of the best times people are disgusted with both parties. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And in some ways, that's good. I tend to think that when this is all done and we're trying to clean up the mess, we're going to see some big changes, certainly in the Republican Party, but probably in the Democratic Party too. Maybe this is what we needed to be done to finally clean up the messes and the corruption we've been dealing for 50, 60 years. It's like it's like an infection finally bubbling into a blister and having it burst. You need it to burst and get rid of the toxins in order for it to heal, and that may be what we're looking at. L. Smith says, yes, we need term limits. I just want to say something about this. I hear this a lot. We need term limits. Yeah, term limits would be great. Age limits would be great. But I'm going to tell you this right now. It's never going to happen. You're never going to get term limits. You're never going to get age limits. And there's one very good reason for that. Because the people that need to vote for term limits and age limits are the ones that will be voting against themselves. It has to be voted on in Congress. They are not going to do that to themselves. OB Mom Kenobi says, how do veterans feel about his little birthday party? I'm curious. Yeah, that's interesting. This party on June 14th, talking about 6,000 or 7,000 military personnel, maybe 150 military vehicles, maybe 50 helicopters, citizens, all kinds of shit. It's going to be an absolute shit show. And I've said this before, when I first heard about it, I said, oh, that'll never happen. And it's looking like it will happen in spite of the fact that it's going to run $100 million. But right now, I'm hoping it does. I'm hoping it does because we know one thing for certain about Donald Trump. Whatever he does, he will fuck it up. It will become a mess if Donald Trump does this. And it'll be further exposure as to what an incompetent piece of shit he is. So I hope it happens. There'll be a lot of protest, and he will fail one way or another. So we'll see what happens when we come to the 14th. Sean says they think he eats bullets and craps ice cream. You can't argue with people who are never wrong. Well, that's true. Donald Trump is probably the weakest president we've ever had. Just watch. When things get a little dicey, watch that pussy-ass bitch get scared. You'll see him curled up on the ground in the fetal position, crying his fucking eyes out. I guarantee at some point that's where he'll be. Third parties need to establish themselves at a state level before they go on to the national level. We need to get rid of electoral college and primaries. We need ranked choice voting. I agree with all of that. The third party thing could work, but it's going to take too long. We need something now, and that's why we need the right candidate, presumably with the Democratic Party, and everybody get behind him. We can't be like the Republicans. Unfortunately, the Democrats are divided too. We got the progressives, the far left, we got the moderates, and we got other people bouncing around there. You got to look at the big picture. You can't get everything you want every time you want it. You got to get the next best thing so that the next time you can get to the next level. Don't expect to get everything you want this first time. Get as much as you can and then get more next time around. Please elaborate on how the pro-life party is voting to dismantle life-saving programs, free school lunches, Medicaid, etc. Because it's not about kids. It's not even about humans. It's about their evangelical religious right bullshit. It's just something that they're using. They find the things that Democrats agree on and they just immediately go against them. They're not pro-life. If you're not going to feed kids, if you're not going to give medical care to kids, you're not pro-life. You're just a fucking religious zealot at that point. How can we call ourselves Christian and hate on your neighbors? Well, it's not a matter of hate, but there are some points where you have to fight. You have to fight. Christians would say, love thy neighbors, presuming that their neighbors were lovable. But don't Christians always say, let's fight evil? And that's what we're doing. We're fighting evil. And that does get a little ugly at times, but we are dealing with pure evil. And we need to fight there. We can't embrace them. What's your view on Demcom spending $20 billion on the SAM program, still shooting themselves in the foot? I say, I'll be straight up honest with you. I'm not familiar with the SAM program. Probably should be, but I'm not. Maybe you can explain that to me. But $20 billion, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. There's a lot of waste in government. Elon Musk can't find the shit, but there's a lot of things we spend money on. Like the $2 trillion or more, $4 trillion they want to give to the wealthy people, or to make the Defense Department, give them a budget of $1 trillion. There's a lot of money to be spent on. Am I surprised that the Democrat Party would shoot themselves in the foot? Fuck no. They do it every day. Aaron's dad has a lot of good info, Lev Parnas. Yeah, Lev Parnas is an interesting character. I knew that Aaron was Lev Parnas' son. I didn't know how it all went down, because you remember how Lev Parnas and his partner were tied in with Rudy Giuliani. He got arrested, he got convicted, and he went to jail for a time. And now he's come out and he's speaking against Donald Trump. Would I trust him? Well, I don't know that I trust him any more than I did before, but I appreciate him trying to right the ship a little bit. Sad to say this country has broken, lost faith in the system. Yeah, you said a mouthful there. I think a lot of people have lost faith in the system. People put a lot of weight on accountability and norms, and we found out none of that makes any difference. We found out Congress doesn't have any teeth. We found out that the judicial system has no teeth. There's a lot of things that need to be fixed and shored up once we have the opportunity to do it. Obi-Mom Kenobi says, my brother is MAGA and said he would hunt immigrants if it was legal. I will not welcome him back that way. Accountability. You know, that's all we can do, really, is separate ourselves from the idiots. I've told the story one time, I've told a story about my father, how he was a narcissist and all that. And I didn't see him for 25 years before his death. And people would say, well, you can't continue to be angry. You can't hold that over you. You'll regret it after he's gone. And the thing about it was, I'd already grown out of the point where I was angry with him or cared. He really became kind of inconsequential to me. I mean, he's my dad, but I'm a dad and I'm a grandfather. I don't need a dad at this point. And I saw him as a possible problem for my family. I knew the kind of darkness and the negativity he brought with him, and I just don't want that around my family. And we didn't have it around our family. And the same could be said for you, Obi-Mom Kenobi. You don't have to hate him. You don't have to stop loving him. But you don't want him around your family because of what he'll bring to the family. It's not so much that you hate him, you're protecting your family. Vicky says, that's the part I don't get. He was the worst the first time, and he's getting more ridiculous every day. Well, see, here's the thing, Vicky. He's got nothing to lose. Back in the day when he screwed over the farmers, he got them bailed out because he needed their vote. He doesn't need anybody's vote anymore. He's grifting everywhere he goes. He doesn't need money. And the thing about it is, Donald Trump's not very bright. He's not making these decisions. People around him are feeding him this information, and he's just reacting. So it's the evil fucks around him that are really doing these things, and Donald Trump doesn't care. He's got a free pass up to this point. I don't know that if he realizes that he could truly get impeached. I don't know that he realizes that he could finally be indicted and really no way to get out of it this time. So I think he's safe, or maybe he knows he's not going to make it till 2028, and he figures he'll do whatever he has to do up until the time he keels over on fucking stage. That guy is bent on a laundry list of drugs. Yeah, I think there's no question. He won't release his medical information, but he certainly has some issues. We've heard some things about the kind of drugs he does, and just his behavior and just his body will tell you that something's going on. We needed to train our kids not to date or marry MAGA. Well, I got to tell you, we shouldn't have to train them. If you're sitting down and talking to a MAGA fuck and you don't realize that this isn't a good prospect for a mate, maybe we need to talk to our kids, because that should be pretty easily to figure out. He's probably pushing his employees to exhaustion. Why anyone would want to work for him is beyond me. Yeah, especially when we know from the past that virtually everybody who's worked for him has either quit, got fired, or got indicted. Yeah, why would anybody do that? Carpe diem, drink some tea, boomer. We need people like you around. Not many rational people left. Well, I don't know about tea, but I'm drinking some Arnold Palmer. That's close to tea, right? I'll be fine. I usually heal pretty fast, and I'll be good. Vicky says, I loved his remarks about decorating with gold on Memorial Day after he took benefits from our veterans and their families. Yeah, he loves to tell us how he supports veterans, but he's done nothing but shit on veterans. And now he wants to have this party to show how tough he is, and so people can give him accolades for having a 79th birthday. I think he'll be surprised by how this turns out. He may not get as much love as he's thinking he's going to get. You're right, Boomer. Their careers are over, and it should be. Someone said there was a tax break for indoor tanning salons while children lose free lunches and SNAP benefits. It's absolutely true. If you look at the bill, there is a tax break for tanning beds or something along those lines. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it's just stupid shit. Carpe Diem says, I agree with that, L. Smith. There's nothing like being lied to by the person you made into a demigod. They will be his downfall. Yeah, no question. We have Charlie Kirk going around trying to convince students that college is a scam, but in reality, it is an attack on higher education for students to feel less inclined to attend college. I've had a lot of comments about the student loan thing and college in general, and here's what I'll tell you. Student loans should be forgiven. And people will say, well, we had to pay ours. Well, when I was paying my school tuition, it was like $1,500 a year. There was a way to afford it. All these institutions and all the loan companies are predatory, and we're paying ridiculous amounts of money for education. You spend $100,000 on an education to get a job making $30,000. I'm not an accountant or a math specialist, but I can tell you that isn't a good investment. We should forgive the student loans, and here's why. The millennials and the Gen Zs are being saddled with these loans. And while all the old people say they should pay their bills, they're paying a lot bigger, heavier bills than you did. And here's the problem. People like me or older than me are living in their houses. They're going to want to sell their houses to subsidize their retirement, right? They're going to want to get as much as they can to get for their houses. Well, when all these millennials and Gen Zs are ready to buy a house, but they're saddled with loans, they won't be able to afford or qualify for houses. So guess what, old fucks? Your houses are going to go or drop in value. You got to think past the end of your nose. The other part of it is, I think all college should be free. Now, hear me out on this. You know, back when we had FEMA and a decent person running this country, when there crisis in this country, the federal government would go to help to try to remedy that situation to get everybody back to normal. My theory is that we have a crisis in this country, an epidemic of stupid. Compared to other countries, China, wherever, we're a dumber country. We're a less educated country. And we're a stronger country when we are educated. So if we have this kind of crisis, in order to make things better for the economy, for the country, for the future, we should put as many people as we can get in school, get as many people educated, and raise the fucking IQ in this country as opposed to continue watching it drop. Just fucking saying. I'm in Virginia, and if you want to bring MAGA out, say something about those dame statues, yeah. Charlie Kirk pretty much peaked in high school, so he loves to hang out at colleges owning the libs. Yeah, Charlie's kind of like Ben Shapiro. He talks fast. So people think he's smart because he talks so fast. But he doesn't really know what he's talking about. He's memorized the Bible and all this shit. But he's just making it up as he goes. My 9-year-old grandson called Donnie a menace yesterday at our family picnic. I had to laugh because Trump's vocabulary is horrible and my 9-year-old got it right. Yeah, there are plenty of 9-year-olds. I know a 5-year-old that's smarter than Donnie Trump. When I got married in 75, Vicky says, and owned a house by 77, I couldn't have a credit card in my name or a bank account without my hubby. Yeah, it went into the 70s. All the things that Project 2025 are talking about, they want to go back to the 50s and 60s and even the 70s. Obi-Mom Kenobi says Harvard is giving a free course on the Constitution, government, and how to recognize a wannabe dictator. I thought that was a great idea, and also a middle finger to the melon felon. You're absolutely right. That was an in-your-face moment, and giving it away for free. I think that was an excellent PR move by Harvard. I stand corrected, Boomer. There were too many similarities between the 60s and what's happening today. You give me hope. Thank you. Yeah. You know, all of us in our lives have seen tough times. There are times when we thought we couldn't get to tomorrow. Now, in terms of our government, here's what I'll tell you about our government, too. All this shit you're seeing, a lot of it was probably happening in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 2000s. But you didn't have as big a dumbass running the country, so you didn't know it. It was under the cover of darkness. It was under the radar. That corruption, that criminality was going on even then, but you didn't hear about it as much because we didn't have 24-cycle news outlets. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have social media. So you didn't hear as much about it. The one good thing that Donald Trump did is he came in and he's a fucking bull in a china shop, and now everything is out there for us to see, which is good news. Now that we know it exists, we know what the problem is, we now can do something about it. And we will. Ultimately, we'll get the opportunity. Donald Trump will not last forever, neither will MAGA. You remember the Tea Party. Oh, they were so powerful, but where the fuck are they now? Some of them morphed off into the MAGA party, but they will die on the vine too, ultimately. I concur. Live interactions like these help express feelings that would otherwise be internalized and eventually erupt. It's times like these places are necessary. Yeah, you know, that's the one thing I tell people. Don't be afraid to be bold. Don't be afraid to speak your mind. Don't be afraid to tell the truth. A lot of people are shy about that. They're afraid of what people will think. And I got to tell you, people are going to think about you what they think about you. I know so many people that try so hard to get people to like them, and then the people act kind of like they like them, and then they walk away and they hate them anyway. Don't worry about whether people like you or not. Just be you. There will be people that like you and love you. There will be people that hate you. Trust me, doing what I do on TikTok, I get a lot of love from a lot of people, but I get a lot of haters and a lot of horrible comments. But you know what? Who fucking cares? Who really cares? It doesn't hurt me at all. It doesn't hurt you either. I do not think Harris will be included in future elections, both black and women, unfortunately. I agree with you. She may end up being governor of California. Maybe some point down the road she can run, but, you know, she's getting older too. She's 60. She'll be 64 by 2028. She'll be 68 by 2032. I don't know. That may have been her one shot, and that's unfortunate because I think she would have been a good president. Sean says, I really don't like that DNC chooses the candidates. That's the last freedom. Call me crazy, but I think Bernie would have done better in 2016. I tend to agree with you, and I'll tell you why I agree with you. Because in 2016, when they voted for Donald Trump, that sent a signal that I would have hoped Democrats and Republicans would have recognized. They voted for Donald Trump not because he was the best presidential candidate. They voted for him because they didn't know enough about him, but they were clearly tired of establishment politics, both on the Democrat and Republican side. They were tired of the same old shit. So they took a flyer, voted for Donald Trump, and took a chance. Well, they fucked that up. But that's the point. They should recognize the fact doing everything like you've always done it in the 90s and 2000s doesn't work. People are tired of that. People are tired of being ignored by our government. So that's, if the Democrats are smart, they become more interactive with the people. They do more for the people. They don't play this elite game. They don't accept big money from big money contributors. A lot of people look at the Democrats as just a different color Republican, back when Republicans were more normal. You're absolutely right about that. Let's see here. A parade to the tune of 100 million and children are dying from lack of humanitarian aid. When did we become so uncaring and unkind to let babies and children die from lack of food? You're absolutely right. We became that the moment 49% of the country voted for a fucking idiot. Absolutely. All right, we're getting toward the end here, and I'm going to wrap things up here in a minute. I'm surprised my throat's held out this long. DJ Clayton Bigsby says that's why MAGAs do. Now MAGA will fight for whatever is right, whatever the fuck that means. Peter would be good. However, if we're not ready for a black woman in office, it would be a long time before we can accept a gay candidate. Yeah, that's a good point. I've thought of that too. I think Pete Buttigieg would be a great candidate, but I don't know if they won't vote for a black woman. Will they vote for a gay man? He's white. Got that going for him. My ex is a malignant narcissist. My oldest son makes decisions to protect my grandson. I fully understand and admire my son. I do too. There's a quote I heard, and I think it's an excellent quote. People always say, well, I lost this family member, I lost that family member. But somebody once said, the family you create takes priority over the family you came from. And that's exactly right. You, your spouse, your kids, those are your priority. And whatever it takes to protect them, even if it means some of the family members from whence you came, that's what you do. I say we start a GoFundMe page and send as many hamburgers to the White House and hope for the best. Yeah. That's probably not a bad idea. I like Pete B., but after Harris showing in the last election, I don't think he would win. Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Last time I saw my biological father was 1987. I bought a house 30 years later with the help and guidance of my father, a Hispanic man, a financial guru. Depending on what your relationship with your mom or dad is, I mean, that time can come. People do change, and, maybe you come back together. I knew the case with my father. He never changed. He was the same guy from the time I was born till the time he died. So he was never going to be a good bet to have around my family. Chris Berry says that's a debating technique to overwhelm people with info to confuse them. Yeah, you're right. That's what the Republicans do all the time. They talk louder and longer, and that's how they overwhelm somebody. And a lot of media people and a lot of other politicians get sucked into that. That's one advantage I've had, and I understood that strategy. But I've had a couple Trump-fucks on the podcast, and they tried to do the same thing. They weren't very good at it, but they tried to do it. But here's the deal. I'm not your typical Democrat. I can talk loud. I can talk longer. I can talk faster. So I just put it back on them. I overwhelm them, and then they don't know what the fuck to do. They just get lost. They get overwhelmed. So my point is if I know this, some guy sitting in his living room on the fucking internet, you would think some media people would say, oh, that works in reverse. Maybe I should do that, but they don't. That's why I'm so frustrated by the media. I think they've done a horrible job in portraying Donald Trump. I think the mainstream media is largely responsible for Donald Trump getting elected the first time and certainly getting elected the second time. They are responsible for it. Vicky says, my family accused me of being indignant about politics on social media. I think I was supposed to be offended. I think they intended to offend you, but indignant against what's wrong and what's evil. Good for you, Vicky. You're fucking right. I'm indignant. I don't accept anything uh, that they say or do. Benny Loco says, nokings.org. Find a protest and join. It's invigorating. If Hillary couldn't win, I don't know how people expected Kamala to win. Well, it was a different era, too. And Kamala was much different than Hillary. Hillary was not well liked amongst people, and she wasn't the likable type. Kamala was. I don't think you can. I think comparing Kamala to Hillary is apples and oranges. We're dealing with two entirely different times, and we're dealing with two different candidates in Donald Trump. Donald Trump was kind of an unknown commodity, and people were taking a chance with him. But with Kamala Harris, everybody knew who Donald Trump was, and still they voted for the dumb fucker. I understand what you're saying, but I think it's apples and oranges, really. I tell you what, we've been here for about an hour and 25 minutes, and I want to thank you for joining me and making this a pleasant experience and making this an interesting experience. Now, this I will put up as the Rational Boomer podcast, so if you weren't here for the whole live and want to hear it, you can go to YouTube, here on YouTube, and you'll see the video, or you can get the audio on Spotify. You can also get the video on Spotify as well. So for all of you out there, thank you for joining me on this Tuesday night. I appreciate it. You made my job so much easier by being there and willing to participate. I hope you have a great night, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.